Good day, everyone. Welcome to WNY Coaches. My name is Rich Jacob. I'm here with Coach Blair Lipsitz, our Managing Director, and our Director of Performance, Coach Bob Bateson. We're here to provide another coach training experience, and we're looking forward to working with you. Our mission, rooted in experience, research, passion, and creativity, the mission of WNY Coaches is to foster excellence in performance and well-being of coaches, athletes, and teams through sports psychology, holistic education, mentorship, and professional development. Today's topic, the sport team as an effective group. We'll cover keys to building team cohesion. And I don't think we have to ask any coach if we want to learn a little more about how to build team cohesion, because we all know that we're together and we're stronger when we are together. Starting out, again, historical perspective, brief definitions. Membership and involvement in a group is a fundamental characteristic of our society. We all understand, in general, the power of group influence. The great Dr. Albert Karen and his group have a nice definition here. Every group is like all other groups, like some other groups, and like no other group. So we start talking about a team versus collection of individuals. I think, coaches, as we talk about celebrating the individual, I want to make it clear, I think, to all coaches, and we as coaches want to make it clear to all players that we do celebrate the individual improvement, the individual performance, and the individual goals. I think sometimes when we're pushing to work as a team, it may get misinterpreted by the players, like, what about this? What about me? Perspective. So, I like to somehow convey to the player that we always celebrate the individual. Like, the greatest thing an individual can do for their team, one of the greatest things, is to improve themselves. So I think that we have to acknowledge and make sure it's clear when we're building team about the, celebrating the individual. Any comments about that, colleagues?
Yeah, I mean, for us playing at the college level, it was always about the team. So it's interesting that you say that. I mean, that's kind of what drove our gym all the time. And we all wanted to get better within that team, but it wasn't a focus on us individually. It was almost always about how the team was doing, how the team was getting better, and how can you make the team better. That was sort of that culture that we were in.
Yeah, I think that it's a great point, Blair. And the culture of the I versus the we can get distracted at different levels and various places. Like, coaches, as you know, at the high school level with basketball, it would take us the first month, to get our players back into working as a unit, as a team, and collectively after coming off the AAU circuits, which is all about I, me, me, I, showcase me, look what I do, look what I'm doing. And I get that, because that's what AAU is really set up for, whether they like it or not. It's a showcase, and everyone wants to show out what they can do. And we really had to retrain our players back into like, this is about the team, not just about you anymore. And it's like, I always say, it was like shaking out the sheets every preseason.
Well,
So
it is.
Coaches understand that, because it's not the team cohesion is really not taught at the AAU level.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like you say, the purpose is to, gain this exposure as an individual, and it's frankly encouraged by many of the major sports, by the media. That's why I say there's an important part of acknowledging their wish to do well for themselves, because it is a reality. So I like Blair, also your response. It's like, for you, and your team at Penn State, your program at Penn State, it was right from the beginning, everybody embraced the concept. How can we be better with the, for the team?
Yeah, and I mean, it was a challenging gym, just competitively. It was really challenging, and I think that becoming a part of the team and wanting to be better for the team was really the only way to do it, effectively or successfully and make it through your 4 years, was to sort of band together with this group and work as hard as you can to get better. So it would, there are a lot of different pieces. And at the youth level, I think to your point, young people do need to hear that, oh, you're getting better, and that's also great, but it's good for them to know how important the team aspect is as well.
Yeah, the responsibility that they have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Coach
I think
Bateson.
that, is I don't know. I think it was more in our era, Coach, with that stuff. I just had a conversation about this with a former teammate of mine, how competitive we were at practice with each other, on the field with each other, but in that same breath, how we celebrated each other when someone did something well, or did something good. You got around and you celebrated them as a team for doing well. It wasn't like, oh, he did well, he did better than I did. Well, there was never that feeling with cohesive team. You're just as happy for your teammate doing well as you are for yourself doing well. And I think that has gotten lost over the years.
Well,
that as a whole.
Yeah, it is a challenge, and it's an ongoing quest for sure, because we don't demand that we're all together and think that it's done. We don't write it in the rules. We don't set it as a goal and just leave it at that. It's an ongoing process for sure. And it does start with leadership. Coach, just like you were saying about AAU or any other program, every individual program has their philosophy, and it starts from the top. So the behavior of the leader certainly influences whether or not there's going to be this kind of culture, building team, or as I say here on the slide, earning team. Again, maybe a little bit philosophical, but the idea that we're on the same roster, wear the same uniform, those aren't the only things that make us a team. We have to earn this thing we call team.
Yeah, like Coach Blair, you coached at the high collegiate level, and most recently. I think that part of the destruction of team is due to the instant gratification of social media. I can go on there and post, look what I did in this game, look at my results, look at what I did, as opposed to why aren't we teaching as coaches, hey, let's post things about what we did as a team. They have their own individual platform. So did you find that a distraction when you were coaching at the college level?
We didn't. And I think it was a function of, we had a great group that when we got our group in, they were such a tight knit crew, and they were all about the team, all of them. It was something that was really important to us, that they would have not only a positive learning gym where they felt like they were part of the gym and they could get better and they could improve every day, but also a positive culture in the gym where everything was being pushed towards, how can we make the team better? How is this making the team better? How am I getting better making the team, and just over time, over the 4 years I was there, we saw such a huge shift. And the team just really cared about each other, and they cared about the program. And I think maybe that's the best way to put it, is that we made the program our biggest focus.
Okay,
How are
that came from you, though. That came from you as a coach.
Yeah, and that came from me as a player, moving into me being a coach, because everything is about the program. How are you making the program better so that when you leave, those behind you in the program have a better place to step into, and then they can make it better after you. And so you're always trying to make it and improve the program over time, and to really take pride in what you're doing for the program.
Yeah, that's excellent. And you're right on point there, Coach, because it's an open-ended group, right? We have seniors
Yeah.
graduating, we have the core, in this case, sophomores and juniors that are still with you, and then the incoming freshmen. So there's continuity there, and building a program is, this entrainment, right? This is how we do things here. So, and that's another definition of a winning program, that you can say that and recall that experience and that group, that they were all, and it's part of who they were. And like you say, Coach Bates, and it does come from the leader. We do understand that, but some of the character, of course, everything starts at home, and then where they're coming from and how you recruit. There's so many pieces to that puzzle when you put together, and then quickly have a group like you had, Coach Blair, that buys in quicker. And as you say, Coach, it's going to be challenging for each level, each program, and there's a uniqueness to every program. Moving on here, like a couple types of teams, co-acting versus interdependent. I mean, I'm not going to read per se to our coaches out there, but the idea here, the co-acting is the individual performance is primary, and the interdependent, no matter how well any individual team plays, the team must work together for success. And the team sports are a good example, but the idea that and what was shared by Coach Blair just a minute ago about her teams is the idea of the interdependent team, which is really good. Again, we all understand the scoreboard defines the winner too, but there's a lot of ways that programs win, and being interdependent, relying on each other, and embracing that is a kind of winning for sure. And that's right. We cannot talk about team cohesion without talking about a quest for Gestalt. So again, I'd like to say we could talk about this for the next hour, and we won't, but this concept of Gestalt psychology really fits, we believe, in the conversation when we're building team, when we're earning team, when we're building team cohesion. And it is when the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. We were all in second grade when we learned 2 + 2 = 4. The whole was equal to the sum of its parts. Well, if we achieve Gestalt and we really achieve unity, synergy together, then we're even stronger than the sum of its parts. It's a powerful concept, and Coach Blair always laughs at me because I bring it up every time, almost every time. Okay. We'll talk about that more, coaches out there. Again, the late, great Dr. Albert Karen, I bring him up. I had the great pleasure to meet him, and we prepared a Western New York sports psychology symposia, and he came to be our guest speaker. Amazing contributions to group dynamics in sport. And here he identifies again some of the 4 group variables that are most critical for team success. And again, coaches who are listening today, you know these things. Some of the information and data we share, we understand that you already have a good sense of, maybe unbeknownst to you, the idea of role clarity, for example. I mean, how often do you make it clear and identify the function for each and every one of your players, right? There's so much to be added to the practice plan, and so much to rehearse and emphasize in your practices. We want to make sure that you're incorporating consistently some of these variables. And here, again, it starts at the top. It absolutely is a part of the, we'll talk about leadership style a little bit here, and also in another individual training. Knowing yourself as a leader, knowing each and every one of your players, which again is a great challenge, is part of building a team culture, right? This idea of AKA team norms. This is how we do it. We've shared already today some of the concept of team norms. What is the norm? Well, I like the comment, Coach Bateson, about social media in today's world. You know, what's happening with the individual celebrations. And if it's a team norm that, hey, we'll all agree, if we're going to post, we're going to post first about the team. That's a good example, I think, of building a team norm. And a team norm only happens when everybody embraces it. Again, identifying cohesion, individual commitment to a group effort. That's what makes a team work, a company work, a society work, a civilization work. The great Vince Lombardi has a, I think, a great definition here, a comment on that. One of the greatest or most well-known definitions of team cohesion from Festinger in 1950s, a sum of forces that causes members to remain in the group. You know, why are we together? And there's, as we're going to see, there's different factors, there's different types of cohesion. And again, here, another definition from Albert Karen. I guess we can't say enough or try to identify enough of what we mean by being together. Again, cohesion is the term we're using, but it's synergy, it's unity, it's being together, it's team, all of the above, right? All of the above. So task and social. This is a couple types of cohesion. So we have the same task in mind. We want to win the title, for example, or we want to win our conference. So that's a reason that a team comes together, just because of the task. Coach Blair, you shared a little bit about everybody liked each other. That's another great reason that teams are together.
Right. I've been on teams that have won that didn't like each other. I've
Right.
been on teams that loved each other and won, and I've been on teams that loved each other and lost. Right? It's like you have to find with your group what works for them, because every group is going to be so different. My 4 years playing and I tend to talk about playing at the collegiate level, because there is more of that unity. That's more of a piece of those teams. Playing professionally, it's a little bit different. I think it is hard for people who have played in a situation like that, where the team is just like this. I mean, you live together, you eat your meals together, you're with each other 24/7. So you're always talking about the task and everything the relationships on the team, how can we build this? And when you go professionally, you lose some of that and it's solely task oriented. And so that's a tough change for a lot of people. But then getting back into coaching later, we realized how important it is to have those team goals, those individual goals, and that commitment, like it says here, the constant reminder to the team of what our commitment is in being in the gym. Why are we here? Why are we here today? And with all of those things kind of pulled together, I think the team really committed to whatever goals we had set out.
Yeah, and you set those goals together as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, of course.
Coach Bateson, what about the NFL and the idea of task versus social?
When you get, like I think Coach Blair hit it on the head at the professional level, it does change dynamics. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you at the Major League Baseball level also, which I was involved in for 22 years, there's players that come in with that attitude of team first, and they're going to do what's best for the team. And even if they're struggling, they're going to stay in there and fight through it because it's best for the team. Might not be best for them individually. Their numbers go down. And then there's players that all they care about are those numbers and how's that best for me? And if my numbers are down, I'm not worth as much on the trading block if that comes around. And you had this dynamic where there's a lot of teams I saw that I was involved in, they were very divided.
Yeah.
I was involved with Anaheim with the Angels. And they brought some East Coast guys in. That's how Dave Hollins got there, is they needed to change that mentality. And they brought in a bunch of East Coast guys to kind of do that and bring that cohesiveness with the team. What was special to the team? Because it's, now you're collecting a paycheck for this job. And now you got to keep your value up. And I get that dynamic also. But there's guys that will put that over the team. And I've seen players confront other players about it also. I've been involved in some real crazy stuff with players that were about the team confronting guys like bailing on them because you're worried about your numbers.
Right.
So there's a different dynamic
though,
at the professional level.
It's interesting because it almost seems as if at the professional level, you would think that the task-oriented athlete would perform better because there isn't always that team cohesion, present anyway. But it seems like maybe the people who are more social last longer in the league. Like I think of a Tom Brady. Everything that I've ever seen come from him, it is all about team first and trying to get the team to be better.
Oh, he took a pay cut for the team.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
Right.
But that's not those guys aren't always the norm at that level. Is my point. But I'm gonna tell you right now, what I see in our guy here, Josh Allen, is like that. He's a team guy first. He's gonna put the team first, and he is second to that. And he has forced other guys to kind of get on board with him on that were more about, hey, it's my numbers. I'm not getting my passes. What's going on?
Right. But recognizing that, nobody's numbers are good if we're not all good together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's a strange dynamic at that level. And I get both sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just difficult.
Yeah.
It is. And I appreciate you're both talking about that level, but I want to venture to say here that even at the lower levels, yes, a little different, but yes, some of the same is happening. So what do we say to coaches on how to handle it?
Well, I think first, if I don't mind jumping in, but I have to start on my head is really the social media platform. Coach, when we had our team, we saw, everyone's like posting on their Instagram page or their whatever about what they did. So I think as a coach, maybe at the high school level, or maybe even the college level, but maybe now he's even tough at college because now you can create your own brand, right? You can get paid now for like advertising for the car dealership locally, right?
Right.
What makes it harder? It makes it hard because it makes it more of an individual as opposed to a team. Maybe start with the social media component, control that, and control to some degree on how they post, what they post, and make sure it's team oriented before it's I oriented.
Mm-hmm. I think even at the youth levels, you can really start just by defining what you're trying to set for the entire season. So sitting down with your team and asking, what do we want to get better at this season? How do we want to do that? And just that constant reminder through the year. If you say, oh, we want to, I'm thinking of baseball because I'm thinking of Little League. If the team wants to learn how to bunt or something, something that's fundamental, then they'll learn that during practice. If they don't want to do it during practice, you just say, remember, we sat down in the beginning of the year and this is what we wanted to focus on. This is something that we wanted to do. This is one of our team goals for the year. Let's do it. And not only are you teaching the team how to bunt, right? But you're teaching them how to stick to a goal and how to do it every day, and you'll see improvement. And by the end of the season, maybe the kid can lay down a bunt and, get to first base without getting thrown out. And that's huge. That's so great for confidence. That's so great for so many things for, the young kids on the team to see. And even if one of the kids doesn't do it himself or herself, they see that person do it because of the work they put in. And that's going to be inspiring to them, maybe to do it next year or to come back for another year and stay in sports, which is what we all want, right?
That's right. That's what we all want, is right. But
with that being said, Blair, you're 100% correct for that. I think there's another avenue or angle to the distraction and distortion of team it comes from the parents telling their kid, like, you should be starting, you should be the number one point, the first point guard. And you're breaking, you send the kid home and the parent is destroying the whole concept of team. And we've experienced that firsthand. And very seldom do we experience a parent, which we did though, where it's like, hey, no, my kid's part of the team. Whatever role he can play for you guys, that's what I support. That's a great parent, right? But there's a lot of them out there that are like, they're pushing that kid like, hey, you should be there. You're the best. You're the best. You're the best. You're the best. And not really considering what's best for the team. So now the kid goes home and he gets really kind of this mixed message from his coaches and teammates, and then a different one from home.
Yeah, I think
we experienced that firsthand.
at the really youth level, I think it's almost about bringing the parents in on those early conversations so that they can use the same language. They know what you're talking about, and they can kind of see what your vision is for the season. And then that way they feel like they're a part of it. They feel like they can have conversations with their children about what you're saying. And then as they get older, it gets less and less about the parents being, as involved as that, but they can still be a part of it. And I think bringing them in and giving them a voice with the athletes and everyone, they see what like I said, what the plan is going forward. Maybe that can help alleviate some of that, hopefully.
Yeah, no, so true. Any way that you can contribute to the parents' education and getting them involved.
Yeah, I mean, I think about Little League and it's like, this is how I grew up, and I hope it's still like this. You want one of the moms or dads scorekeeping, and you want somebody doing the concession stand, and you want the little brothers and sisters trying to do the score but getting it wrong because they're 5. And that's kind of how you want to cultivate youth sports versus yelling at the 5-year-olds that they got it wrong.
Yeah, no doubt.
Got the score wrong.
We used to line all the parents up right in the beginning on the field in Little League and say, these are your coaches. Everybody, we're all your coaches, right?
Right.
And it's in its own right. Again, that includes the parents for sure, and gets them closer to the message. And I think another thing we do is to foster that positive atmosphere, is to reward social support. Reward each member, each little leaguer. Hey, when someone like Coach Bates, and you said it, you celebrate when your teammate did something well, right? We want to reward that behavior. We reward maximum effort. As long as you're giving all you have, you're trying your best. That's winning as well. And we reward when you acknowledge your teammate. That's a really good thing. So I think that's also part of the messaging that goes on in youth sports that we'll talk a lot about through these trainings.
Yeah, and I've heard in the past, coaches who have, especially as the kids are a little bit older, that they can come with any issue that they ever have to a coach, of course, right? But not just directly a parent to a coach. So the athlete has to come and have that conversation, and do it obviously respectfully. Parent can be involved, of course, but it needs to be led by the athlete versus the parent.
Yeah, clear expectations and protocol.
Right.
Yep. Excellent. Thank you. Again, more of what we're talking about, but starting with the team goals that we have the players participate in. And we look to always increase, in this case, our team task cohesion, or this idea of collective goal setting. Coaches out there, right, where you have your agenda, you have your strategy, you have your philosophy, but it's important to involve the players, all the members of the team, in collectively agreeing and thereby owning these team goals. So again, even we can maybe oversell the idea of maximum effort, but when you're trying your best, you truly are winning. And I think that has to be repeated and emphasized on a daily basis. If I'm if I'm advising the coaches out there, the idea of staying with it or bringing focus to one thing at a time, that's part of planning too, right? This idea of team goals and direct attention to certain things, right? We have themes of the day, just like we do in a presentation, right? What are we going to talk about today? What are we going to learn today? Well, let's keep it simple. Even at, again, we're talking about youth sports maybe right now, but even at going up to high school and collegiate sports, we've talked about this, both of us, all three of us here have talked about this very thing. We have all these ideas and goals in our mind as the head coach. We can't spray it all out there every day. We have to bring some semblance of organization and focus and give time for the learning to take place. And again, ultimate goal to improve team performance, right? The idea of Kaizen, continuous improvement. Talking more about coaches' behaviors, frequency of training and instructional behaviors with high support. Again, we're identifying and repeating the emphasis on what it is we would like to have happen, positive, accentuating the behaviors we're looking for, making clear what we're expecting, listening to what the players are expecting, the idea of democratic leadership. This is, again, collective goal setting, having everybody have a say. We all know there can only be one general. We know there's one leader. That has to be made clear as well. But we have to be open-minded and be willing to listen, because that dynamic brings the most brilliance, to the room, to the team, to the culture. So the idea of a team climate of learning, right? We're getting better each day. Again, for coaches out there using this word Kaizen, a Japanese term for continuous improvement, that's the idea. If we start practice at 12 and finish at 2, we want to be better at 2 than we were at 12. We want to make, small improvements every time we take the field, the court, or the ice.
I think the learning gym that we call it a learning gym, but the team climate of learning that you're talking about is so important now more than ever, because I think we have a lot of young athletes who struggle with perfectionism, and a learning gym can really help open them up to seeing that mistakes are okay. Mm-hmm. You have to learn how to make mistakes because you're going to make them in the game, right? Oops, sorry about that. But you need to know how to bounce back from them because they're going to happen. So that means that we have to make them so that we can practice bouncing back from them. And right. Also we need to make those mistakes so that we can see that difference between hitting a ball in by 2 feet or hitting a ball out by 2 inches. And you get to know that range just by practicing, and there are going to be mistakes in there, and those mistakes are okay because we're learning and we're getting better through them.
It's the old saying, right? There's no success without failure.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Excellent point. Again, some of the things we already do, but this is just another suggestion for coaches, breaking the team down into small groups, having them write their own thoughts about the performance factors most important for team success, and then come together and identify as a team what are our very few, right? Keep that list short, coaches. 3 to 4 performance factors most important for team success. Again, having everyone participate in identifying these goals, as simple as it sounds, is critical to ownership from all members. And again, more than likely, coaches out there, some of the things that you already do. A few more examples of all team performance factors that you want it to be measurable. We want to have a little report card here. This is a basketball, hockey example. I'm sure coaches, you could come up with other examples, but the idea is everything that we can measure and review and evaluate at the end of each performance is just going to help us stay cognizant, right? Stay thoughtful about our goals and how we're doing in our effort, in our progress to achieving those goals. So a little protocol, a little report card, if you will. This is just some simple examples, but again, I'm sure coaches out there, you can create your own short list and perhaps utilize them accordingly. Now, Coach, you're calling it Learning Gym?
Yeah, that's what we called it.
Yep, yep. And the idea here, again, positive atmosphere, motivational climate. How do we create that? I'd like to hear from my partners here. I mean, there's so many things we can talk about, but there has to be some consistent behavior, and certainly starting with your own philosophy, Coach, right? Starting with your own behavior, your own belief system on how we create a motivational climate. Because again, easier said than done to create such a climate.
Yeah, for me, what I hope the athletes that played for me recognized, I have very high expectations as a coach of what everyone's bringing to the table every day, especially at that level. But I think instead of looking at those high expectations with nervous energy or anxiety, I wanted them to look at it as a way that someone saw something in them that maybe they hadn't seen in themselves yet, and that they had another level that they hadn't hit yet. And that wasn't a negative thing. That was a huge positive for our team. And that we were going to work every day to help them find that level. And then when they realize that and they see it, it's such a huge confidence boost. And for me, that's my motivation, especially working with young women, was to show them that they are capable of more. They are capable of everything that they want to do. You just have to really work hard and put the hard work in to see it.
That's very good. Very good.
The motivational component, you have to break it down constantly, because let's say our motivation is a state championship. Say it out loud, right? We got to say it out loud. That's what motivation is. But that could, that's a long season. That could be 4 months away, right? So we have to each practice or each day break down, like, remember what our overall goal is, and these things are going to get us there. So that you stay motivated daily and every practice for the big picture that can be down the road 4 months.
Yeah.
By breaking it down.
That road can change 100 times, right? It doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah, and then the responses when the road changes.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And this is, by the way, this primus inter pares is Latin for first among equals. And again, for the listeners, for coaches out there, the idea of first among equals is Robin Jones from the UK has the concept that we do want to treat every member as important as the next. So in one sense, we are all equals, but we are reminded that there is a first among equals, right? There is a leader of the pack. But the idea of the principle of participation and that everybody is as important as the next person is an important message, again, that has to be conveyed consistently in any way you can find how. Everybody will convey a different way. There's a lot of opportunities, I think, to recognize this equality, this that everyone is truly valued for what they can bring, because everyone in the locker room has something valuable to bring to the whole. And it's our job as coaches to make sure we nurture that contribution, that potential, if you will, from every member. Not, again, many coaches, perhaps unintentional, but put a lot more energy into the leading scorers or into the high level performers than they do the rest of the group. And, that can hurt credibility, and it can become quite an obstacle in building cohesion.
That's why it starts with the coach. It starts with the front office.
Absolutely. And again, your message has to be clear and consistent for sure. And again, coaches, we can only be ourselves. So be yourself. We don't want to try to be someone else, or it's nice. We learn from other coaches, from other experts. We learn from doing our research, but we have to build that into our own style. We are all unique in that sense. And that's important. I think that you're not trying to be someone you're really not. Be genuine and find your way. And this is why we're together as WNY coaches to hopefully be an excellent resource for you as coaches to learn a little more about being a better coach, or a little more about yourself as a coach, and what you might be able to do, to improve your overall performance as a coach, which we know that you want to do. That's part of your intention for sure. And resources help. Some of these correlates, some of these results. This is the increased tendency to share responsibility. We often say, I know in a basketball court, we say, whose fault is that? It's everyone's fault, right? It's everyone's fault. We're all here to share the responsibility. We're all here to celebrate the successes together, and the challenges that are involved. We're here to share that responsibility. The idea of sacrificing your personal glory for the sake of the team, when that comes from within a person, again, something to celebrate, absolutely something to acknowledge. Even those small moments in practice, when someone, gives up something that they could have had, an opportunity they could have had, but they share the ball. Basketball talk again here, coaches, right? But they share the ball in that moment because someone had even a better opportunity. That's a sacrifice in and of itself. Be it so small, it's okay. But I think we have to, as coaches, acknowledge those moments, because we foster, again, this idea of, the positive climate, right? Yes, we call it a motivational climate, or again, using Coach Blair's term, the learning gym.
Do you guys have, what are they like? Every different age group has a different thing that they do for the team, like team roles kind of, but for their age. Do you have anything like that?
Freshmen carry the balls onto the bus, that type of thing?
That kind of thing. Because we had those in our gym when we got to UB, and when we got rid of them, we saw, I thought getting rid of those for our group was so great, because it allowed us to see who are your leaders, who's showing up early, who's putting the nets up, who's taking the nets down, who do people look up to in those moments, who's leading, who's going to get the key to open the door, who's figuring out how to do that. Not only that, but a freshman and a senior together are just doing it.
Right.
Yeah. So that was something that a lot of people do, and I understand the reason that they do it. But for us, it was better to get rid of that and let everybody just be equal on the team and really see who shows up. Because you also see the leaders come out that are saying, hey, you haven't helped set up the net yet. It'd be nice if you came over here.
Right.
And those dynamics kind of present themselves.
Well,
So
getting called out by a teammate is way more powerful than getting called out by the coach.
100%, right?
Yeah.
And just allowing them to figure it out as a team.
No, I agree with you. That old school of freshmen carry the ball.
Freshman responsibilities.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're called. Yeah.
I never adhered to that in my career. It didn't matter. I always brought everybody in. And as a senior, I brought the freshmen in as if they were equal. And I got what's crazy about that is I just did it instinctively, never thought anything more about it as a teammate, and I want them to be better, so we're better. I've had people comment recently on that from teammates of mine from college that were freshmen when I was a senior, how, and we're friends to this day, but how they looked up to that I did that. I'm like, I never thought anything of it. It wasn't even
Right.
wasn't even a second thought for me.
Mhm.
Because everybody else was putting those like, oh, freshman, you get beat on and you're gonna do all the dirty work. And I
Right.
never put him in that category.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, that's great.
you say that, Blair, because you're right. It built a stronger cohesion to this day.
Yeah, to this day.
That, was brought up to me. It blew my mind.
And you really, as former athletes and as people who have been on teams, that those are the moments that you remember, that you look back on. I mean, I remember championships and us winning, but like my most vivid memories are that stuff, right? The bus rides, getting in the ice bath after practice, all of that stuff that you do outside of your true
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah, it's true. I had a college teammate of mine, just got a note from a teammate, again, this many years ago, but he said, I was a freshman. There wasn't enough uniforms, and I was kind of last in line. And you came, my teammate, you came to my dorm room that night and brought me your uniform. So those kinds of acts of kindness, if you will. But you're right, so memorable, and that leads to more satisfaction about being a part. Being a part of the team. It is certainly a privilege, and we often say, look, there are thousands of people your age that would love to be part of something like this. So understand the responsibility that you have, but understand the opportunity and the privilege that you have just being a part of this team. So yeah, these are great examples and important, like you say, important memories to the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should look at someone should look up the '93 World Series team, Philadelphia, Phillies. Bunch of guys that like no one thought had a chance to do anything that year, and they go to the World Series. That was with Lenny Dykstra and Dalton as a catcher, Hollins at third, Crook at first, Incaviglia out in center. So you had and then right field. You had all these guys that were just brought the sense of team. They hung out after games with each other in the clubhouse, talking about what they need to do to get better. Why can't we go to the World Series? Let's do it. And that's how I'll never forget that team. That's how they did that. Is they just banded together as a band of horses and turned that whole season around when they were predicted to do nothing.
That's great. That's a great story.
Yeah, that could actually be a case study. That team. That's how really magnificent that was. It was all actually initiated and generated from Lenny Dykstra.
That's real neat. And, the potential there comes from comes from the spirit of that team.
This role acceptance and role satisfaction makes me think of an athlete that I played with. I was a junior, she was a senior at the time, and a freshman came in. And the freshman ended up going on to be All-American, great player. The senior, that was her spot. So the freshman comes in and takes her spot. In so many ways that could have gone, right? She could have gotten mad. All the seniors could have gotten mad. There are so many different dynamics that could have been presented. But this player, the senior, chose to help the freshman every practice, every game, every time there were a position where that person comes out of the game for a little bit and then goes back in constantly throughout the game. Every time she came out of the game, she would go and talk to her, try to look at this, understand this. And she would try to sort of help her volleyball IQ because she was young.
Wow.
And she had the experience. And throughout the entire season, you just see her coach this freshman through her position on the court. It was unbelievable. And for us to see that, I was younger, I guess, at the time, for us to be able to see that in another person on our team, it was like, wow, this is what a team is.
Yeah.
And it's just an incredible story. And we went on to win that year.
Perfect example of a team right there.
Yeah. Unreal.
Selfless. Yeah.
Inspirational.
Mhm.
Neat. Well, thanks for sharing that. And you're right. Role clarity is one thing, role acceptance, and then role satisfaction. So many dynamics. And we like to lead with that example. Thanks for that example, Coach. Again, we don't have this list of Smith and Small. It's older. You know what? I just want to say research. So many people say, well, let's see the research most current, and that's important. But also, some things never change. So it's important. I think when we're going to have many resources on our site, wnycoaches.com, and you'll have articles in every possible category, sports specific, etc. And you will see some originals, if you will. And these 12 behaviors by all coaches, there's a checklist system. I encourage our listeners to take a look at this coaching behavior assessment system. We'll have other measurement tools here in the next slide, but this idea of Smith and Small, they were right on point when they talked about coaching behavior. And that is what we're talking about, right? Leadership behavior, coaching behavior, and how powerful the influence of coaching behavior is, in particular in building cohesion. And again, the idea of a mastery approach leads to a motivational climate, leads to a learning environment that is always fostering success. Because if we're looking to get 80%, 8 out of 10 of a certain skill set or whatever the task might be, whatever sport we're talking about, then we're going to continue to do it until we get it right. I think, Coach Bateson, in your strength and conditioning and in your program and your approach, I think you use the mastery idea, right? We have the end goal in mind, and then you always are looking to identify progress. I know you do that even, I can speak as a student of yours, right? Anytime you make progress, you're acknowledging that progress, even though the end goal might be a little further ahead.
Yes, that's the like we had talked about earlier with the state championship is the end goal, but how do we motivate every day in practice to get to that end goal?
Yeah, and small successes, right? Small successes.
And acknowledging those successes.
Yeah, critical. Great, Newt Rockney. I love this quote. I've loved it for a long time, right? The secret is to work less as individuals and more as a team. As a coach, I play not my 11 best, but my best 11. Leaves us to think a lot about what we've talked about today. Because chemistry, and again, it's a team, many of the sports we're talking about are team sports, and relying on each other and coming together in sync to perform as a team to the best of our ability. It's not always individual skill set that we're talking about. Again, repeating this idea of role clarity. And again, yeah, always we have Newt Rockney, Vince Lombardi, John Wooden, some of these great coaches, and there's a whole list of them. But we do want to learn from them. And the idea here, again, is the principle of participation and making sure everybody is feeling as valuable as the next. And I think this quote alludes to that point as well. Again, it's about acknowledgement. It is about communication and frequency of feedback. type of feedback. We'll talk, more about feedback in future trainings, but this is just another example of talking about team variables leading to cohesion. Just more emphasis on role clarification.
That always reminds me of I always use this example, but I was watching the Olympics, this past Olympics, and they were talking about role clarification on the Olympics,
Mhm.
which I never heard before, right? And so it was a volleyball team. Her name is Annie Drews. She's a right side, and she, the player got hurt, the starting player got hurt, and she had to go in. She had a great game, and she really made a huge impact, and they went on to win. And after the game, she says, I'd like to thank my coaches for their role clarification, because I know that is my role, is to work as hard as I can, to be as prepared as I can, to know that my job is to go in if I am needed and give everything I've got to that position. And I know that's my role, and I'm comfortable there. And then she did it in the Olympics on the biggest stage where she could do it. And she was successful at it. And it's just so cool to see that even at that level, they're having these conversations about, this is my role. This is who I am as a player. And I'm comfortable, even if I'm not starting. My coaches have told me that I am valuable to them, and that this is where I'm valuable for the team. And this is where I'm going to be great.
Yeah, that was unbelievable to witness. And I remember there was a storyline, right? Every time you saw the women's USA team play, that they would show the injured all-star.
Yeah.
Show that Annie Drew was her name, right? Yeah.
Yep.
That's good. Yeah, and the same point, speaking to John Wooden, he said something like this as a substitute's creed. I will stay prepared, and perhaps I will get my opportunity.
Right.
Good point. Okay, we're winding down here. Just a couple minutes to go here. Coaches, you have access to these trainings on our YouTube channel and our site at www.wnYcoaches.com. These, again, I want to say to the coaches that try to involve yourself with some of these instruments, utilizing some of these instruments. It only helps to increase awareness, not only of yourself, but it helps the team, again, become more invested in their participation. And some of the data, some of the results really can take you to another level as a team and as a coach. And again, we're available to talk about any and all of these examples that you have on the screen, but these are the most used. I mean, leadership scale for sport was Cheladure, who's again the guru of leadership. And then down at the bottom here, group environment questionnaire developed by none other than the late great Dr. Albert Karen, who we've talked about a number of times today.
And if nothing else, it starts a self-awareness for coaches, right?
It does.
Looking sort of that introspective look into how am I as a coach and who am I as a person. And if those two things don't line up, the team's going to know that too.
Yeah, and I think that we're going to look to share these out one at a time, or even, take some surveys. Even in some of our trainings, we bring some of these instruments with us. Thank you. Any final remarks, coaches, for our audience? Thank you all for being here. Let's work together to protect our young through sport. Again, WNY Coaches, coaching training. Looking forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks for having us.